Oh, God. Hello, everyone. 1 second. There we go. Bada bing, bada boom. God, what a start. The Hungary ring. Are we ready? Are we set? I'm not. My computer decided to have a moment. But how are we doing? Raises in the chat. Lofi's here, of course, as always. Mahan, how you doing? Sally's in there, of course. Every single weekend. Bizwudget Parat. Start. It was coming. It was coming. Dark Deer, hello. Day Beach. Jay, how's it going? Captain Bricks. Emma in there as well. How are we all feeling about the Hungary ring? I feel like it's one of those tracks that has a little bit of a weird, underappreciated value in Formula One. I do think it's one of the better tracks, actually, of the calendar. It never delivers like the best race of the season, never delivers the worst race of the season. Kind of goes around in that middle pack a lot of the time. How are we all doing? Jeez, everyone's saying hello. Heavy rain expected in 15 minutes. 15 minutes before qualifying. Ooh. First time in the stream. Hello, mate. How you doing? Leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Darcy in there as well. I love you all also. Oscar Piastri 81 says Lachlan. I've got some big hopes for Oscar Piastri this weekend. Obviously, he wasn't great here last year. I was rewatching a little bit of the Hungarian Grand Prix from last season, and it was one of those Grand Prix that really highlighted Oscar Piastri's weakness with his tyres. But hopefully, he's kind of over that. Or at least has a bit more going in his favour. Why can I not find the F1 channel? It's just like live motorsport. Beautiful. That'll do. Just play the channel. There we go. Now I can actually see it. I think Max is going to get pole. See it. C2 will dominate today. Forza Ferrari. Looking interesting for Ferrari, actually. Obviously, fastest in first free practice, but then had a little bit of a weird second free practice. In fact, should we just get straight into it and into like the news of the week and discuss everything that has kind of gone on in the couple of weeks since Silverstone? It's a bit of a man. It doesn't feel like it's been 2 weeks. I think it's because last weekend I was so busy. Like when I have a weekend off, especially after a triple header, it's usually when I have to catch up with like people, human beings, society. Therefore, just gets very, very busy. And obviously, it's triple header, then double header, summer break. So last weekend was an absolute madness. My sister's birthday as well, so that had to happen. Antonio's in the chat. Hello, mate. Good afternoon. Oh, you've got the purple NA symbol now, of course. 2 years. That is absolutely ridiculous. Thank you so much, Antonio. 2 years a member. If that isn't, just the proof that you need to become a member, I don't know what is. But Antonio, absolutely supporting the channel since the very beginnings of its embers, all the way up until now. I think George Russell, yeah, middle part hair. I don't really know what I'm going for. I'm in between haircuts is the problem. Like I kind of want one thing. I used to have another thing. So they were like, okay, we'll cut your hair like this. It will be kind of a little bit in between what you want and what you have. We can't do exactly what you want because it's not long enough. We can't really leave it as what you have because otherwise it will never get long enough. So I'm in kind of an in-between moment with the haircut. But, it's not like it's going to be on the internet forever. Right, let's talk what's happened. First and foremost, I think the biggest kind of turning point so far in the couple of weeks that we've had is Kevin Magnussen is going to leave Haas at the end of 2024. I thought about doing a video on it, but then I was kind of like, did we expect him to stay? It was one of those things where it was like, okay, yeah, I can understand why Haas are kind of breaking that bond between Kevin Magnussen. Did they need to announce it as such? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe this is announcing this because they're hoping to announce their actual driver fairly soon. A lot of kind of the markers are pointing towards Esteban Ocon taking that seat alongside Ollie Behrman. We know that Nico Hülkenberg is going to Sauber. We know that Ollie Behrman is in the second seat. It's just who replaces Kevin Magnussen in that Haas role. We now know for definite it's not going to be Kevin Magnussen. Although I feel like we kind of knew that anyway. But I don't know. Do I understand this decision? Yes. Kevin Magnussen hasn't been at his best in the last couple of seasons. I think he has been exposed by the fact that Nico Hülkenberg has just been so good. And Nico Hülkenberg has kind of come into Formula One and had a little bit more about him, had a little bit more kind of vigor behind his driving. I think because Nico Hülkenberg had a little bit more to prove, because Kevin Magnussen was only away for a season. Haas was so bad during that season. When Kevin Magnussen came back in, he was kind of like the hero, the savior. Whereas Nico Hülkenberg came into the Haas team as like I need to really prove that I am worthy of a Formula One seat and I need to get back onto the Formula One grid full time, which Nico Hülkenberg has been able to do, and now also been able to kind of leapfrog Haas into the Audi project team coming into 2026. So he's done incredibly well, whereas Kevin Magnussen's kind of gone the other way, has started to peter out a little bit. I think the thing with Kevin Magnussen is you have those absolute flashes of brilliance. You know what I mean? Like you have the pole positions in Brazil. You have the races where he's been top 5, top 6 for Haas and has really got the most out of that package. And then you have the absolute disaster classes. Like there have been races where it's just like, how on earth has it fallen apart so badly for Kevin Magnussen in this one? And I think this season started in that vein. You know, I know you can give him the argument of, well, he was doing those things to help Nico Hülkenberg, the defensive maneuvers in Saudi Arabia, for instance, but picking up 10 penalty points in the first, 7, 8 races, something along those lines, going into Monaco and actually thinking, if he gets blamed for this collision, he could end up dropping out of a race, which was not something we've seen from any Formula One driver ever before. Like, we've never seen anybody actually get to those 12 penalty points where you pick yourself up a race ban. So it did kind of feel like Kevin Magnussen this season wasn't doing enough. Was he going to be there for Haas next season? I think the other thing that's kind of played against him is Gunther Steiner is no longer there. He was kind of Gunther Steiner's man within the Haas project. Gunther Steiner's not there anymore. I think Haas are trying to look in a different direction. I think Haas have realized that they can actually build something here. I think there's been so much positivity around them this season that they've thought, okay, let's try and build on this positivity. Let's get some drivers in. Let's do something a little bit different. Try and set ourselves up for the future, rather than being the Haas team that a lot of the time in the last few seasons has been there trying to just put together pieces that work and hoping that something happens, rather than actually planning for the long term, for the future, for trying to build something together. So I can understand Kevin Magnussen leaving. Esteban Ocon. Yeah, putting Esteban Ocon with a child, is that a good idea? That's the other thing, isn't it? Sergio Perez also being linked as well, although has got that Red Bull deal supposedly. I don't know. What do we think? What are we saying? Daniel Ricciardo in there as well. Carl's saying it. Yeah, I could see Daniel Ricciardo. I don't know if they'd be able to pay Daniel Ricciardo is the problem. Like, the only reason they were able to get Nico Hülkenberg in the first place was because he was just wildly cheaper than the other options. I think Nico Hülkenberg is still only on like a $2 million contract. I know I say only $2 million contract, but considering the performances that they put in, I think Kevin Magnussen is getting paid like 7, 8 million to Nico Hülkenberg's 2 million. You know, is Kevin Magnussen 4 times the driver that Nico Hülkenberg is right now? Absolutely not. But he's costing the team 4 times as much. So, I don't know. It's a little bit of a strange one. I feel like Esteban Ocon, I don't know how much Esteban Ocon is actually paid per season. Should we have a little look? F1 drivers' salaries 2024. Of course, this is all kind of speculative, isn't it? But it gives us a reasonable idea. So yeah, Nico Hülkenberg is the 17th highest paid driver on the grid. So way down. Kevin Magnussen, 5 million a year. Where is Esteban Ocon? Oh, Esteban Ocon currently projected to be paid around 6 million a year. So you know, getting rid of Kevin Magnussen, bringing in Esteban Ocon, it's a comparable swap in terms of driver salary. In fact, I imagine Ollie Behrman will only be on the kind of minimum contract, which I think is around about $1 million per season, which Yuki Tsunoda and Logan Sargent are still on, by the way. So if Ollie Behrman's only $1 million, then actually the amount they're paying on drivers for next season will be exactly the same as they are for this season, because Ollie Behrman will cost $1 million less, whereas Ocon will cost $1 million more. So actually, they're doing the right thing in terms of their driver moves and budgets. Let's have a look at how much Daniel Ricciardo gets projected. Should always say. Daniel Ricciardo projected. Oh, okay. He's actually taken a bit of a pay cut. I know he was up in the like 12, 15 million range when he was at McLaren. He's supposedly on 8 to 9 million a season. Okay, so Daniel Ricciardo actually not too much out of their budget range. But again, I suppose you're looking at Esteban Ocon is a little bit younger. Esteban Ocon kind of has been a little bit better than Daniel Ricciardo, I would say. I suppose the only thing kind of going against that is the season where Ocon and Daniel Ricciardo were together. Daniel Ricciardo absolutely wiped the floor with Esteban Ocon, although I suppose that was a little while ago. Since then, Esteban Ocon's been pretty good against Pierre Gasly, pretty good against Fernando Alonso. Like, he stood the test well as Esteban Ocon, as a reason why Alpine have kind of kept hold of him, even though he hasn't been the best driver on the grid per se. Will Ricciardo go mid-season? I think it's definitely an option, you know. I think the problem that they've got is, well, let's have a look at it, right? So I've got the 2025 grid so far. Let's have a little gander. So assuming Kimi Antonelli goes in the Mercedes or Carlos Sainz, I'm assuming that's kind of the next big driver move. You've still got 5 seats towards the back end of the grid there. Daniel Ricciardo obviously being one of them right now, but whether or not he'll kind of stick there is the thing, right? And especially if he's going to get moved on mid-season, I don't know if I can see Daniel Ricciardo going anywhere else. The issue that they have is Liam Lawson's contract allows him to become a free agent for 2025 in September. So just after the summer break. That means that Red Bull or RB need to make a decision on Liam Lawson before September. Otherwise, other teams can start getting in the mix. And actually, apparently Audi have already had discussions with Liam Lawson. Alpine have apparently already had discussions with Liam Lawson about going there. I feel like Williams would be silly not to have a discussion with Liam Lawson. He just feels like the kind of driver that would fit in a Williams seat fairly well, in my opinion. I don't know. I feel like RB need to make a decision on Lawson. It feels like Lawson coming in mid-season, less likely. Lawson being confirmed for 2025, I think they should do. But that then leaves Daniel Ricciardo in a very odd spot where he would be driving for the second half of the season. He wouldn't have a seat to go into because I can't see anybody else picking up Daniel Ricciardo, if I'm honest with you. I know that we've just sort of said he could end up at Haas, but I think that Esteban Ocon link is too strong at this point. Does anyone else go for Daniel Ricciardo? Probably not. Daniel Ricciardo's in a really horrible spot. Once again, Daniel Ricciardo's in a spot again where if Sergio Perez hadn't signed that contract, he'd probably still be being linked to that second Red Bull seat. Now Sergio Perez has signed that contract. I can't see Daniel Ricciardo. Well, the problem is Sergio Perez's contract is also the thing that's very much up in the air because Checo's also being talked about being dropped mid-season. So we could see Red Bull just run out of all drivers. So, you know, they're going to drop Sergio Perez mid-season. They're going to drop Daniel Ricciardo mid-season. Yuki Tsunoda's probably headed to like Aston Martin or Alpine for 2026. Liam Lawson might sign somewhere else come September because he doesn't want to wait for Red Bull. So we could genuinely see Red Bull go from like 5 top-tier drivers to 1 with Max Verstappen left over. And even he's being linked to Mercedes in 2026. So Red Bull are running out of drivers really quickly. Going to see Isaac Hadjar in a Red Bull very quickly if all of that comes to fruition. There's definitely the case where Red Bull are in such a strange scenario in terms of their drivers. Once again, like I feel like they they have a monopoly, obviously, over the driver market a lot of the time because of the fact they have 4 seats compared to 2. But a lot of the time, that also then causes them more headaches than really is helpful. We've seen them swap drivers a lot recently, and they never really seem to be able to make something properly work. And kind of goes down to Max Verstappen as well. Because Verstappen is so good, it's so hard to put a driver near him, next to him, and judge them fairly. You know what I mean? Because Max Verstappen just does so well with everything that he's given. It's so hard to see. Yuki Tsunoda going to Red Bull just doesn't seem like Yuki Tsunoda ever really is in that discussion, though, does it? And it seems so strange because he has probably been, outside of Max Verstappen, the second best Red Bull driver. You know, I feel like he's been better than Ricciardo this season. I feel like he's been better than Sergio Perez this season. And Liam Lawson is obviously still in the mix. Liam Lawson's had tests here and there, but Yuki Tsunoda's been doing it week in, week out. And it does feel like, okay, so Yuki Tsunoda's your second best driver. Surely you put him in your second seat. But it just doesn't feel like that's going to happen, does it? And it's such a strange place for Yuki Tsunoda to find himself in. Daniel should go to Andretti. Andretti is still linked. 2028, though, is the next Andretti possibility, I think, in terms of getting actually involved in Formula One outside of buying another team. Obviously, Haas look like they're not looking to sell anytime soon. That was always the one, wasn't it? It was like, oh, maybe Haas will sell to Andretti. Alpine also. Alpine kind of linked. Well, will they sell to Andretti? Doesn't look like it at this point. So Yuki is invisible to Horner and Marco. Not necessarily Marco. It's more Horner, to be honest with you. Marco recently said that like the higher ups at Red Bull actually quite like Yuki Tsunoda at this point, and they can understand why Yuki Tsunoda would be a good option. It feels more Christian Horner. It feels like Christian Horner kind of doesn't want to forget about Yuki's really tough start to his Formula One career. Is kind of holding that against him a little bit more, to be honest with you. One more thing we should mention, we're getting very close to the start of qualifying already, only 11 minutes or so to go, is the amount of upgrades this weekend. It's been another big upgrade package weekend just before the summer break. Feels like a good clinch point, doesn't it? You know, the summer break is coming. Obviously, the teams have to stop working over the summer break, so it's 4 weeks where they can't really do much. So moving into the second half of the season, they want to kind of get their ducks in order a little bit, put on any upgrades they have been working on, have a test of those upgrades and see what they can do with those, and whether or not when they come back after the summer break, they can continue to develop with those upgrades that they've used the first half of the season developing, or whether they kind of go in the bin and the second half of the season's a bit of a reset in and of itself. Kick Sauber actually bringing the most upgraded components, like a lot of new upgrades on that Kick Sauber. Some of them, of course, track dependent, but a big chunk going towards trying to make that car quicker. Has been the slowest car on the Formula One grid for the majority of this season. Aston Martin as well, huge upgrade weekend for them. So it'd be interesting to keep an eye on Fernando Alonso. He was not happy during free practice 1 and free practice 2, not going to lie to you, but maybe, just maybe, they can find something. And Aston Martin are such a strange one, aren't they? Because it does feel like every time they bring an upgrade, feels like they actually end up going backwards, or at least stand still, which is the same in Formula One because everybody is moving forward so quickly. So Aston Martin, 7 upgrades onto their car. But maybe most importantly, and I know that they're third on the list, Red Bull and Max Verstappen bringing 5 big upgrades, side pod upgrades, making looking at the front wing, rear wing, they have got a big chunk of upgrades. I think even the floor as well of that Red Bull car this weekend is upgraded. And I think that's ominous, isn't it? You know, everybody else has just been catching up. McLaren obviously not bringing any upgrades this weekend. Mercedes and Ferrari, one kind of tiny little bit here and there. But, you know, McLaren brought their upgrade to Miami and they closed the gap. Mercedes brought their upgrade over the course of like Canada and Spain, and they brought their upgrades and they closed the gap, and Mercedes won a couple of races, and it felt like, oh, okay, this is starting to really heat up between these 3 teams now. Ferrari was still in the mix here and there, but when Red Bull bring 5 upgrades and a huge upgrade development package to their car, It just feels like if they get it right, we could be looking at another kind of 3, 4, 5, 6 races, almost like the beginning of the season, right? Where Max Verstappen for the first 5 Grand Prix was absolutely away from everybody else. It was only the 6th Grand Prix in Miami where Red Bull kind of came unstuck a little bit. That was only because of a safety car and the upgrades that Lando Norris brought and McLaren brought. So it does feel like if they are able to make those upgrades stick, and Max Verstappen's been very positive in free practice sessions so far this weekend. Sergio Perez has actually looked a little bit quicker so far this weekend. So if those upgrades do stick for Red Bull, it's not good news for everybody else. So I would just like to kind of preface this weekend with that. I think Red Bull are looking very tasty indeed. Haas, RB, Mercedes, Ferrari, Alpine, Williams also bring in little upgrades here and there. But the top 3 are the ones to kind of look out for this weekend because, you know, as I said, the upgrade packages can really swing your season. You look at McLaren's season has become electric since Miami, really. They've been right up there in contention for victories. Same with Mercedes. Mercedes, you know, Canada, they were right up there. George Russell obviously got pole position. And then also Silverstone last weekend, they were right up there. Lewis Hamilton got the victory. Austria was a little bit lucky that George Russell got that victory. But again, they were in that realm to be able to pick up that win. So this could be very interesting to see. And I feel like we should mention just very quickly Ferrari and all of this. And the fact that I've seen a few people saying, well, there we go. Seen a few people saying, well, Ferrari should be good this weekend as well. What's happening to Ferrari right now? Does feel like Ferrari are just a little bit off the boil. Charles Leclerc went off in free practice 2 into the advertising hoardings. It was a corner that a lot of kind of drivers made a mistake. Zhou Guanyu made the similar mistake at exactly the same corner as Charles Leclerc. So it does feel like that's also a corner to watch out for, especially because it's going to be wet. I'm envisaging red flag during qualifying, possibly, maybe even, you know, a safety car or even a red flag during the race, because that corner just seems to be catching a lot of drivers out at the minute. In particular, Charles Leclerc, disappointing. He said himself the last 4 races have been a nightmare for him. I wouldn't expect too much more from Ferrari this weekend. I just don't think this track really suits their strengths either. So Ferrari, I'm expecting to be 4th fastest. And that's the thing. Maybe even Aston Martin can close the gap in on Ferrari. And maybe Ferrari are the 5th fastest car out on track. Do I hesitate to say? It's absolutely insane. But considering they were undoubtedly the 2nd fastest car at the beginning of the season, but that's just how quickly Formula One moves. You can be 2nd fastest at the beginning of the season and suddenly find yourself 5th fastest halfway through if your upgrades don't go right and things don't go quite as planned. But that's just my thoughts and feelings. Obviously, you guys got your thoughts and feelings out there in the predictions as well. I don't think we're actually going to have time to go through them. I'll leave them for tomorrow. If you do want to get your predictions in, you're allowed to get them in now over on the community tab. Head over there. Community tab on this channel is absolutely stunning, by the way. It's one of my favorite things, just kind of having a little scroll through the community tab. And I know I don't reply to every single comment, but I do read absolutely everything that goes on the community tab, just because I think it's such a good place to share opinions in terms of Formula One. And generally, people are quite nice over there. In fact, when they're not, I just delete the comment anyway. So there'll be nice comments when they're over there. Quali, though, we are just about 3 minutes away. So get your predictions in. It's going to be an interesting one because it's looking damp. Whether or not it's going to rain specifically, I haven't been looking in particular at the weather forecast. Let's have a little look, see if I can find anything. Not sure. Don't think it's going to rain during qualifying, but it has been raining on and off all day in Hungary. Therefore, kind of interesting to see what happens. How do I feel about Sauber? Barry Bottas done the most laps in practice and with 9 upgrades. I feel like this is their turning point, right? This is their gamble for the season, if that makes sense. This is their big upgrade package. big kind of statement thing. Can they get off the bottom of the Constructors' Championship? That'll be what they're aiming for, right? Just to try and get some points on the board, actually put themselves in the mix, because how far are they off now? So Kick Sauber 2 points off Williams, 9 points off Alpine. So it's going to be a task, isn't it, to close into those teams above. In fact, is that updated? Just double check. No. 4 points off Williams, 9 points off Alpine. Thought it was 4. 27 points off Haas, 31 points off RB. So, you're looking at Stake Sauber there and you're going, it's been half a season, right? It's been 12 races, 0 points. They've got 12 more races. How many points would you expect them to get? Obviously, going off the past, 0. Can they get 10 points in 12 races? They'd be doing an absolutely sublime job if they could. I think Haas and RB are completely out of reach now of someone like Stake Sauber, but there's definitely an opportunity for them to get 8th in the constructor standings if these upgrades are really what they want them to be, you know what I mean? They can close that gap to the teams in front. Obviously, me, the Alpine guys, hoping for a Q3 appearance. From which one, though? I feel like you got to pick an avenue, Gasly or Ocon, haven't you? Because both of them very different to one another, and also they don't get on. Max is washed. He's getting nervous of Mercedes. I did kind of see that the Mercedes links opening themselves up again for 2025. There's still not a lot of positivity around Red Bull's engine package going into 2026. There's still a lot of question marks there, and a lot of people saying Red Bull are a bit behind. They don't really know how to set up this and that and the other. Whereas everybody is saying the Mercedes engine for 2026 is looking like the best engine. You know what I mean? It's like Mercedes are still going to be Mercedes is still going to offer their engines to McLaren and to Williams. Both of those teams seem like they are absolutely ecstatic with that. Obviously, Haas have now confirmed that they're taking Ferrari engines, but again, Ferrari have enough experience of engine manufacturer where you'd be like, oh, okay, fair enough. Aston Martin and Honda, you'd say, well, Honda are literally supplying the engines of Red Bull right now. So going into the next generation, the next cycle, you'd expect them to be pretty good as well. I don't know. Red Bull are in a weird place going into 2026. Very weird place going into 2026. It costs nothing to subscribe. Thank you, Sally. We are indeed on the way to 100,000. Yeah, I haven't mentioned that either. We crossed the 90,000 subscriber threshold, which is absolutely obscene. Like, we were aiming for... I can't remember what I wrote down as my aim now. I think my aim at the beginning of the season was to try and get towards like 20,000 subscribers. And we're now heading for 100. I mean, look, there's just this lovely space. There's this lovely space right here. Wouldn't that just look stunning if it had, say, a silver play button in there? Maybe. The radio messages are coming in. Fernando Alonso, first radio message of the day. You can run, switch, and warm up. Fernando, run, switch, and warm up. The cars are preparing, getting themselves set up. Seeing McLaren drying their pit box there. And the car's set to get underway here in Hungary. Nico Hülkenberg there in the Haas. Just 10 seconds. The call. And let's get bits and pieces loaded up. We're seeing cars coming towards the end of the pit lane then. And getting ready to go. It's going to be Hülkenberg who's actually out on track first. Oh, let me just set this. Apologies. Forgot to turn my track map on. Good job. Told you it was a bit of a rush getting in, but we'll get there. Magnussen behind Bottas as well, coming out on track. In fact, a lot of the cars getting out there and getting out there early, especially because the rain is predicted. Soft compound tyres for the majority of the field. Predicting a Sargent spin. I don't think that's impossible. And everybody queuing up in the pit lane. There is Max Verstappen, our current championship leader, making his way out of the Red Bull garage. Sergio Perez behind him this time around. And let's see if the quali board is going to work. There we go. Give it 1 sec. Sorry, I should have done this beforehand, but I kind of forgot. Don't worry. Nobody is setting lap times of any note as of yet. Hulkenberg just coming around at turn 12, leading the pack. Valtteri Bottas confirming that the track is okay for slick tyres, and that's good because the majority have chosen them. And here we are then. There you can see Nico Hulkenberg just coming around the final corner and getting the first qualifying lap underway. Kevin Magnussen, his teammate behind him. The McLarens still making their way out of the pits. Ferraris 2x2 and the Red Bulls at the back of the pack. So it will be Sergio Perez and Max Verstappen to set their lap times last. Still very slippery, isn't it? You can see there's not quite a dry line on the track as of yet. So you can tell it's going to be a bit of a slip and slide for these guys coming out early. Of course, the track is going to continue to dry, but the rain expected to come fairly soon. So Hulkenberg, though, doing a good job tiptoeing around in his Haas car. 57.9 through the middle sector for him. Nico Hulkenberg has been absolutely on fire so far this season, hasn't he? Really done a lot to give Haas some positivity around their Formula One car. Of course, going to Stake Sauber next year and then Audi for 2026. Let's see how he sets out. A 120.5 for Nico Hulkenberg. Kevin Magnussen, though, over a second quicker than his teammate. Comes in with a 119.3. Valtteri Bottas slots in between them, a 119.3 as well. 0.03 of a second off Kevin Magnussen. Zhou Guanyu 0.6 off Kevin Magnussen's time, goes into third place. Oscar Piastri. Ooh. Might only get 1 lap before the rain comes, Oscar Piastri is told on the radio. So going for it off the bat is Oscar Piastri. He's not going to hold anything back here. You can see him fighting that McLaren car through the first sector, up the hill to that blind turn 4. Takes it with aplomb, does Oscar Piastri. During that time, Logan Sargent set a 117.7, starting to show the real pace that is available to these cars as the track is starting to dry a touch. Oscar Piastri we're still on board with here. Lando Norris's teammate just behind. Both of the McLarens wanting to get more out of this weekend than they have over the last 2. Still been on the podiums fairly regularly, but they want that victory. The rain is increasing in the first sector. There's Valtteri Bottas on the radio. Oscar Piastri, though, coming around the final bend. Is he going to go top of the timing sheets? Yes, a 117.5. Lando Norris, though, looks like he's going to go quicker. No. Lando Norris really missed out, I think, in that final sector. Yeah, dropped a couple attempts to his teammate. In the final sector, did Lando Norris. Thought he was on for a quicker time than his teammate, but drops into second place. Carlos Sainz, though, has just gone quickest of anybody through the middle sector and goes quickest of anybody overall with a 117.2. Lewis Hamilton has actually gone quickest of anybody so far in the first sector. Remember, the 2 Mercedes and the 2 Red Bulls were at the back of this run. Charles Leclerc, quite concerningly, only 13th fastest. Sergio Perez comes across the line, a 117.8. Max Verstappen, a 117.7. George Russell, a 118.7 as well. Where's Lewis Hamilton going to slot in here then? And Hamilton comes across the line and does indeed go quickest. Fastest in the first and second sectors, Lewis Hamilton. And a 1:17 dead, nearly the first driver to go into the 1:16s here in qualifying at the Hungaroring. As it stands, Daniel Ricciardo, Nico Hülkenberg, Valtteri Bottas, Pierre Gasly, and Zhou Guanyu would be the 5 drivers to drop out of qualifying. There's a yellow flag in Sector 1, and whoever said Logan Sargent spin might be right. Is Logan Sargent stationary on my lap tracker? But he has got going again, so... Oh. Although it does look like there's some debris left over there from Logan Sargent going off somewhere at the first corner. Hopefully we get to see a little replay of that. There was a bit of carbon fiber or something running across towards the barriers. Some little drops of rain starting to come then, and George Russell only moves up to 11th fastest overall. That does drop Charles Leclerc into the bottom 5, with Valtteri Bottas improving also. Alex Albon up in 8th place. The Williamses splitting the Red Bulls, split by the Red Bulls, I should say. Fernando Alonso in 9th. And now Leclerc under a lot of pressure. Here it is, the replay of Logan Sargent. And down towards turn 1. Oh, it's a big, big lockup. Oh, and does hit the barrier, does Logan Sargent. Huge lockup. Just looks like the car was never going to stop. Into that first braking zone. Maybe just a little bit damp, or the tyres a little bit cold. Ooh. Does bump into the barriers, manages to get the car into reverse, but Logan Sargent back around and was able to get back into the pits fairly soon. No, is still coming around turn 12 now, is Logan Sargent, so we'll need a new front wing on that car. Is fairly safe though, a 1:17.7 at this moment in time, 6th fastest overall. Charles Leclerc still not quicker than that. Goes 9th fastest ahead of the other Williams in Alex Albon. Max Verstappen, though, has just gone quickest in the middle sector of anybody. Max Verstappen, 3rd fastest overall with that lap on the soft compound tyres. Sergio Perez with a poor middle sector in his Red Bull. And looking to improve. See what Sergio Perez has got coming around the final corner across the start-finish line with the DRS open, and it's not going to be an improvement from Sergio Perez at all. 8th fastest he remains. Sargent has made his way into the pit, so is Albon, Bottas in the pits, Magnussen and Hülkenberg 2. We have, at this moment in time, it would be Lance Stroll, Kevin Magnussen, Zhou Guanyu, Nico Hülkenberg, and Pierre Gasly, who would not move on in this qualifying session. Lance Stroll currently a 10th off Daniel Ricciardo, although here comes Pierre Gasly, and Gasly goes 11th quickest overall. That drops Daniel Ricciardo into the drop position, being just 0.02 of a second slower than Valtteri Bottas. Is ridiculously close in Formula One at this moment in time, and it just, like, it astounds me every single qualifying session, the margins that we are seeing in Formula One at the moment. You know, we had that extreme moment with Max Verstappen and George Russell setting identical lap times for pole position in Canada. But every single qualifying session, you have to be good. All 20 cars are within a touching distance of each other, that just a couple of corners going wrong, you can suddenly find yourself way out of position compared to where you wanted to be. And that's exactly what we want from qualifying. It is exciting. George Russell in the middle sector. Ooh, getting a little bit out of sorts was George Russell. It's that turn 8 and turn 9 for George Russell not going the way he would have wanted them to. And now makes his way back into the pits. Obviously not going to improve on his lap time. And he is 14th fastest. And that's what I mean. It's so competitive. Could easily see George Russell with that lap time dropping out of qualifying here if he does not improve. Needs to go quicker. Daniel Ricciardo in 16th, Lance Stroll 17th, Kevin Magnussen 18th, Zhou Guanyu 19th, and Nico Hülkenberg in 20th place. Some lap times coming. Lando Norris with a poor middle sector. Charles Leclerc with a poor middle sector as well. It does make you wonder if that middle sector is just damp enough now, or it is too slippery for the drivers to improve, because Lando Norris 8/10 off the pace there in his lap, doesn't improve on his lap from before. Charles Leclerc, I don't know if it's going to improve either, or just does about, goes up into 8th fastest, but it was a poor middle sector from Charles Leclerc as well. It's not looking good. Oh, yellow flag. Sergio Perez. Sergio Perez, turn 8. What's happened there? Red flag. Oh, it's Sergio Perez in the wall. Oh my goodness me. Sergio Perez desperately in need of a good weekend and has put his Red Bull in the barriers. And his run of form in qualifying is just going from bad to worse to disastrous. His Red Bull in the barriers at turn 8. And that's going to be the end of Sergio Perez's qualifying session. He says he's okay, which is the main thing. Very much not looking safe for Sergio Perez right about now, isn't it? Let's have a little look at this. Comes through turn 6, down into turn 6 and 7. Gets through the chicane. Gets onto... just gets onto the paint. Too much onto the paint there. Tries to run on the curbs on the outside of that kind of little straight before little straight between turn 7 and turn 8. There is a painted section just to the right hand side of the track, and it is a big spin from Sergio Perez. A lot of damage done to the rear end of that Red Bull car, and that is the last thing that he needed, wasn't it? Sergio Perez desperate for this weekend to go better for him, and he's not down in the bottom 5, but I mean, this means Sergio Perez at best will be 15th overall going into the Hungarian Grand Prix tomorrow, and a red flag again for the Mexican. Starting to get silly, isn't it? It's back-to-back weekends. We was in the gravel in Silverstone in these mixed conditions. And it does just feel like Sergio Perez, specifically when the track is difficult, when the conditions are tough, he really does struggle to adapt, and he just can't get to grips with this Red Bull when the conditions are against him. The team strapping the Red Bull car and able to get that Red Bull out. It does also mean that going into tomorrow's race, depending on how many of the new parts that they have for that Red Bull car, he may end up having to run old spec parts on his Red Bull, which again doesn't bode well for him because he's been struggling with the Red Bull car as it was. We talked about it in the pre-show. Those 5 big upgrades coming to the Red Bull car, including the wings, including the floor, and all of that looks to be damaged in that spin. Oh, and it's such a heavy shunt into the barriers for Sergio Perez. And Christian Horner, Helmut Marko are going to be looking on and shaking their heads at that contract that was signed just a few races ago, keeping Sergio Perez at the team until 2026. Whether that will actually be the case, not so sure. Sergio Perez, free agent in 2025, says Codex. Could definitely be the case. The rain is starting to pour now, more and more so. And actually, this red flag might have come at the worst possible time for those guys in the bottom 5, because the rain is getting worse. Logan Sargent's car also, actually, I thought it was just the front wing that was damaged from Logan Sargent's collision with the barriers, but possibly something a little bit more as they're looking at the front left suspension of Logan Sargent's car also. So Logan Sargent is also in 7th place. Could see 2 of the 5 cars locked in for Q2 already with Sergio Perez and Logan Sargent. Well, definitely Sergio Perez going to be out, but he will start probably 15th place because, as I'm saying, the rain is coming down pretty heavily at this point, and it feels like there's not going to be an opportunity for drivers to really improve on their lap times. You know, you're not going to do a better lap time on the intermediates than you did on a fresh pair of soft compound tyres, even if it is a wet track. Oh, and Daniel Ricciardo was, yeah, on a run. Who is out? Yeah. 6.5 minutes left to go. Now, I feel like the rain is just going to cause this session to be a little bit of a whitewash. Sergio Perez's car still actually lodged in the tyre barriers is the problem that the marshals have right now. Can't seem to get that Red Bull free of the barriers. And Sergio Perez causing another red flag here. So close this out for a minute. There's not going to be a lot going on as we are red flagged. What we all saying? Checo, you absolute donut. Hello, Jamie, mate. Lovely to see you. You missed Sergio Perez spinning it into the barriers once again during qualifying. Where's the website I'm using? That is a multi-viewer. They're up there. And also up there. Multi-viewer, massive, massive partners of the channel. Supply us with all the data, telemetry, bits and pieces that we use. Jamie also becomes a member for 24 months. Absolutely ridiculous stuff. Let's get that 100k. We are on the run up to 100,000 subscribers, mainly because of the members. Jamie, Antonio, Sally, I know it all in the chat today. Have been here for a very, very long time between them. And Jamie, absolutely, thank you so, so much. Of course, if you can't become a member, the best way to support the channel, leave a like on the videos, subscribe to them. In this time, I'm also going to take the opportunity to plug the fact that I did release a video yesterday. If you haven't seen it, it's a little bit of a deep dive into what's gone wrong with McLaren in the last 6 races. So the last 6 races have been tough for us McLaren fans in one way or another. It's been lovely to see that the Ferraris have kind of fallen off and the McLarens have taken their place as the best outside of Red Bull, or possibly even the McLaren being quicker than the Red Bull on some occasions in the last 6 Grand Prix. But something's gone wrong here, there, and everywhere. But actually, I think that a lot of the negatives that have come out of the last 6 races can actually be framed into positives moving into the later stage of this season and especially next season. So I go through that in lots and lots of detail for you. You know, whilst there's a red flag, head down to the description, hit that top link. Even if you're not going to watch it right now, just have it open. Maybe hit the like button on it. That'd be absolutely amazing. Or if you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button underneath here as well. And we absolutely will be back underway once Sergio Perez's car has been moved. I don't know if we're going to see many cars out on track for this last 6 minutes or so, just because the rain is continuing to pour. And that means that those 5, Daniel Ricciardo, Lance Stroll, Kevin Magnussen, Joe Guan Yu, and Nico Hülkenberg, might just be kind of thrown under the bus there through no fault of, well, for a little bit of fault of their own. Obviously, they could have gone quicker the first lap that they were given the opportunity to, but for no real fault of their own, they're not going to get another bite at the cherry, and they're going to be out of qualifying here in Hungary before Q2. McLaren 1-2 tomorrow, I would absolutely love. Sainz in a Red Bull. I was an advocate for Sainz in a Red Bull right at the beginning of the season. I thought he was the best possible option for Red Bull. But they don't really want to go that way. And Carlos Sainz is now way deeper into talks with a lot of other teams on the grid. You know, Carlos Sainz supposedly very close to signing for Williams, very close to signing for Sauber, even talks with Alpine now. So it's getting to the point where Carlos Sainz's future could be confirmed fairly soon. And there's the rest of it as well. Here we go. Sergio Perez's car finally moved. Q1 will resume at 4:22 local time. So it's 3:22 where I am. Other times, depending on your time zone. Sergio Perez fan in the grandstands there, not looking overly happy at all. Liam Lawson for Red Bull is also another one. Yeah, I've seen that, LaFleur. Red Bull. Liam Lawson. It feels so strange that Liam Lawson could go into that Red Bull seat when Yuki Tsunoda is there, though. You know what I mean? Red Bull's so kind to keep leaking their floor. Yeah, they just want to help out the rest of the field, you know, keep it entertaining, keep it close between the top teams. It is frustrating for them though. They literally have put a brand new floor on that car for this weekend, and now straight away it has been exposed to the world. So any upgrades that they'd have done, any things that they'd have wanted to keep a little bit secret, nope. Out there for the world to see now that Sergio Perez has backed into the barriers. (6:22 p.m.) There you go. See, got it. Time is paused. Yeah, because of the red flag. The timer gets paused. 6 minutes 45 on the clock. That will remain. Once the red flag drops, it gets stopped. Then all the teams get to go back out for that time. Still work going on Logan Sargent's car, by the way. It's a bigger shunt than I anticipated, to be honest with you. I thought it was just a little knock, maybe a little bit of front wing damage, but actually it's looking like a lot to do on that car. Let's have a little look then. So for the British qualifying, we got 384 likes. That is your like target for it. I think Austria was a little bit lower than that, 250 or so. I think the most liked qualifying of the season so far was actually in Spain. 413 likes. So if you want to make the Hungarian Grand Prix the most liked qualifying session of the season, 400 likes is the aim. But just to beat Britain, 384 is the requirement. Hit that like button as we get back underway here at the Hungaroring. We've got the two Sauber cars, Peugeot and Bottas, out on track. George Russell wanting to get some lap times in as well. Currently running 14th overall is George Russell. And looking like he might want to improve upon that with Ricciardo, Stroll, Magnussen, Joe and Hulkenberg also with the option to improve. Does feel like a lot of the teams kind of waiting to see whether or not it is dry enough. We are seeing these cars come out on soft compound tyres. Are they actually going to be able to improve in terms of their lap time, or is it just become too slippery? The rain sort of has stopped in certain areas of the track, and dabbles of rain in various spots. Valtteri Bottas would just about be safe, but his teammate behind him, Zhou Guanyu, really needs to improve. Building the temperature in the tyres, trying to find a little bit of a dry line if there is one. Zhou Guanyu then is going to give it a go. Valtteri Bottas behind him out on track. George Russell also coming around turn 13 towards 14. Alex Albon has just come through turn 2. So maybe you're going to see some lap times. I'm just not sure whether or not these lap times are going to be quick enough to actually cause anybody some real trouble. Because the track is now even wetter than it was before. Yeah, Zhou Guanyu 2.5 seconds slower through the first sector. It's the worry that I had is coming true. Just too slow through the first sector, unless this is another build-up lap for Zhou Guanyu. I wasn't watching on board. The Mexican Minister of Red Flags. Did Perez crash? Perez has indeed crashed. He is 9th fastest at this moment in time, so would technically still qualify for Q2, but then would be 15th fastest in that. George Russell, it's still very, very damp. Zhou Guanyu, nearly 7 seconds slower than his previous lap time. DRS still disabled, actually, yeah. So no DRS down the main straight. It just doesn't feel like these cars are really out there for the right reasons, does it? just out there for a leisurely drive around. Carlos Sainz has decided to join them. Lewis Hamilton as well, actually. Maybe just trying to get a little bit of a feel for the track more so. George Russell 9 seconds slower than his lap time before. That must have been another warm-up lap for George Russell. Maybe this is the lap that he's going to go for it. George Russell, 14th fastest, as I said before, trying to improve. Let's see what his first sector time is like. He's on the soft compound tyre as George Russell. Obviously, no DRS still. Deactivated because the track is too wet and too slippery. He is 6/10 off of Lewis Hamilton's pace. Is George Russell through the first sector. Ouch. More cars are coming though. Verstappen, Sainz, Leclerc, Stroll, Ricciardo making his way out on track as well. So maybe just enough cars thinking, maybe. Oh, George Russell though. Personal best middle sector. Okay, maybe I was wrong. Maybe we're going to see just a sprint to the line from these last few cars. George Russell still very slow in the first sector, but a personal best in the second sector. And possibly going to get a little bit of a drag here from his teammate. Nope. Goes 10th fastest. Does improve, does George Russell. Not by a ridiculous amount. Just went fastest of anybody in the third sector, though. Did George Russell. Still nearly 9/10 off Lewis Hamilton's provisional pole time at this point. But George Russell doing the thing that he wanted to and getting himself outside of range of that bottom 5. Ricciardo, Stroll, Magnussen, Joe, and Hülkenberg all out on track. And all will try and improve. This may be the end of my boy Sergio Perez. Yeah, it does feel like it's getting a little bit silly, doesn't it? Checo continuing to have an absolutely woeful time of it. I did a little bit of an analysis of Sergio Perez's last 6 races, also linked in the comments down below if you fancy watching that video. It's not great viewing if you're a Sergio Perez fan, but it's been a little bit out there. And actually, I think this is the worst stint that we've seen from Sergio Perez. You know, last year, he obviously had that run from, what was it, Singapore to Vegas? Around about that. Was that the right, are they the right words I'm saying? In the right order? It was before Vegas, wasn't it? It was the 6th Grand Prix before Vegas, where he was absolutely dreadful. Had like Japan in there, where he went out, got a 5-second penalty, then had to unretire the car and come back again. Like, there were so many bad races for Sergio Perez in that 6-race stint. I think this 6-race stint might be up there as equally as bad. And, you know, when you're going through pretty consistent 6-race stints of poor performances, now 7 if you include the Hungarian here for Sergio Perez, just how on earth do you justify your position in the top team of Formula 1 as it should be? Let's see then. Lewis Hamilton matched by Max Verstappen. Verstappen comes across the line and does exactly the same qualifying time. Charles Leclerc goes 4th fastest, 3.5 off. Lance Stroll improves and puts Valtteri Bottas into the bottom 5. Lance Stroll goes 4th fastest overall. Here comes Daniel Ricciardo, quickest of anyone. Hello. If that's not Daniel Ricciardo showing Red Bull what's what, I don't know what is. Jeez Louise. Daniel Ricciardo with a 1:17 dead. Alex Albon goes 5th fastest. Hülkenberg 6th fastest. That puts Pierre Gasly in the bottom 5. Ocon also in the bottom 5. He's going to be out. Zhou Guanyu and Valtteri Bottas have got the opportunity here to put Russell out. Zhou Guanyu, not good enough. 16th fastest. Can Valtteri Bottas do it? Yes. 10th fastest. And that is George Russell then out of qualifying. Is Sergio Perez going to join him? Of course, Sergio Perez out of qualifying, but will he be actually in the bottom 5? Yes, Magnussen. We're going to see Magnussen out on track in Q2. So it is Sergio Perez, George Russell, Zhou Guanyu, Esteban Ocon, and Pierre Gasly, the 5 that are out. I was proven very wrong. I thought the track was going to be a little bit too wet. But no, the cars come out and they do the business. Daniel Ricciardo take a bow. A 117 dead from the Australian. The Alpines back to where they started the season in 19th and 20th place. Zhou Guanyu 18th. George Russell after picking up a victory in Austria, pole position in Canada, a 17th place in qualifying for George Russell. Just as I said before, it just goes to show how ridiculously close qualifying is right now. It is hundredths of a second that are the difference. And George Russell, what was he? A 10th off Kevin Magnussen's time in the end there. Absolute ridiculousness from George Russell. And Sergio Perez also in the bottom 5. Of course, wasn't going to be able to take part in Q2 anyway. So that's actually probably a positive. That means we're going to see another car out on track for Q2. And of course, Sergio Perez starting from 16th place rather than 15th place as it would have been. Logan Sargent's car also having a little bit of work done to it. Just about managed to get through. It's only 14th fastest, even though Alex Albon was able to put it 5th. And it does make you wonder, is Sargent really going to be there after that little collision with the wall? We'll have to wait and see in Q2. But it set itself up very nicely indeed for Q2. If you ask me, the track continuing to dry. Cars still finding a little bit of pace here and there. But the 15 drivers we will see are Daniel Ricciardo, who was fastest in Q1, Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, Carlos Sainz, Alex Albon, Nico Hülkenberg, Lance Stroll, Yuki Tsunoda, Charles Leclerc, and Valtteri Bottas were our top 10 there in Q1. They'll want to remain there. It's Oscar Piastri, Fernando Alonso, Lando Norris, Logan Sargent, and Kevin Magnussen who have the opportunity to improve their fortunes in Q2 and will need to improve their fortunes in Q2. They want to make it all the way through to the top 10 shootout in Q3. Sergio Perez, George Russell, Zhou Guanyu, Esteban Ocon, and Pierre Gasly are the 5 drivers to drop out of qualifying. They will no longer take part today on Saturday. We'll start 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, and 20th in tomorrow's Grand Prix here in Hungary. Ridiculous from Daniel Ricciardo. The Daniel Ricciardo fans coming out in the chat all of a sudden. And a wonderful drive from him. Cannot take away from that. An obscene lap from Daniel Ricciardo. Should we have a little look at the sector breakdown and just see where he was able to do it? It was that final sector for Daniel Ricciardo that made the difference. There it is. He was only 14th fastest in the first sector, 4th fastest in the second sector. Of course, that first sector time is his best one, so that would have been with DRS. That may be one to kind of put to one side. But you can see Daniel Ricciardo fastest in the final sector. Yuki Tsunoda fastest in the final sector as well. So the RB really clicking when it comes to that final sector of the Hungarian track. It is just kind of 3 looping corners. So maybe that is where the RB really does thrive. Those slow speed, long corners through turn 13 and turn 14 that you have here in Hungary. It's George Russell's radio. Takes the blame. Does George Russell? Takes the blame himself. That's on him. Maybe made a mistake. Got a little bit out of shape. Takes responsibility. Holds his hands up and will start 17th tomorrow. Wow. RB final sector really, really strong indeed. Ferrari looking pretty good in the first sector. Sainz and Leclerc 5th and 6th. Hamilton, though, and Verstappen kind of the standout 2 so far in this session. And maybe the 2 we should be keeping an eye on for pole position. If I'm honest with you, they were identical in terms of their times through Q1. But let's reset the clock. 15 minutes on the clock. And he's just... So Hamilton was 0.3 quicker than Verstappen through the first sector. But then Verstappen 0.2 and a 1/10 quicker in the second and third sectors, respectively, giving them identical lap times, 1:17.0 from the both of them. Daniel Ricciardo then coming in, being 0.03 of a second quicker. That's all he needed to put himself top of Q1. Q2 then, set to get underway. As I said, Piastri, Alonso, Norris, Sargent, and Magnussen, the 5 that need to improve on their Q1 performance. Otherwise, they will not make it through into Q3, and they'll be joining Perez, Russell, Zhou, Ocon, and Gasly out of qualifying. The Ferrari team preparing Carlos Sainz's car. And here is Carlos Sainz coming out of the Ferrari garage and might even be the first man out on track in Q2. Here is Lewis Hamilton's car being prepared for another session. Swapping out the tyres actually on Lewis Hamilton's car. Maybe going for a used set. Have to wait and see. For the love of God, Daniel, please keep up your pace. I feel like Red Bull are probably looking at that and going, should we have put Daniel Ricciardo in the car this weekend? Should we have maybe swapped Sergio Perez and Daniel Ricciardo for the opportunity to? Maybe. But here is Carlos Sainz, the one man out on track. Wanted to get out there early for Ferrari. On a very used set of soft compound tyres, though, by the looks of things. Carlos Sainz, just maybe a little bit of a banker lap for him. I don't know if banker laps are really worth much nowadays, are they? Because it's so tight with the rest of the field. You get your banker lap in, it only really helps you if there's a red flag right at the end. I mean, Sergio Perez caused a red flag 6 minutes from the end of Q1, and still we saw lots of cars back out on track. Instant improvements from drivers as the track dried as well. And nothing better than 20 Formula 1 cars rattling around to dry off that racing line. Still can't believe Russell is out. Yeah, Russell out of qualifying. After 3 really strong race weekends, you have to kind of give it to him. Canada, very, very strong. One little mistake, you could say, kind of cost him dearly, but was on pole position in Canada, was right up there with Max Verstappen and Lando Norris, was fighting for the victory. Austria obviously had a really solid weekend, benefited from Verstappen and Norris clashing with one another in Austria, but picked up that victory, looked like he had momentum behind him. And then, again, very strong in Silverstone. Maybe struggled a little bit with the mixed conditions, wasn't the best at kind of going from the intermediates onto the slick tyres and how that transition worked for him, but again, got really unlucky with a technical fault. So was running probably in contention for a podium place. Don't know how that final stint would have gone for him. It's been a good 3 or 4 races for George Russell, and now qualifying where he takes the blame, holds his hands up, and as I said, if you're not absolutely on it, you don't make it through anymore in Formula 1, even if you are in one of the top teams. He finds himself behind Sergio Perez tomorrow. It'll be interesting to see what both of those cars can do, because we've seen Sergio Perez at the back of the pack a few times this season, and none of them he's ever really been able to make too much progress. Usually just about gets himself into the top 10. You know, if George Russell can finish 5th or 6th from 17th place tomorrow and ahead of Sergio Perez, I think that again mounts the pressure on Sergio Perez even more than it was before. That drone shot was pathetic. I agree. Yeah, it was pretty terrible. It's pretty terrible. Sainz puts it P1. He does indeed with a 117 dead. To be fair, that would have put him quickest of anybody through the last session, which just goes to show how the track is continuing to dry up through those important sectors. Hamilton also on used tyres, and considerably used tyres. That was what they were putting back on Hamilton's car. I think they'd put the fresh tyres on and then were like, actually, let's put a set of used on, get that banker lap in. We know that the track is going to evolve towards us. So Hamilton on a used set. Verstappen also out on track. I think on a fresh set of soft compound tyres by the looks of things. Valtteri Bottas actually putting Max Verstappen under a bit of pressure in the Stake Sauber. Verstappen wanting to keep ahead of the Sauber car through the final sector. Carlos Sainz coming back around will be going into the pits. Hulkenberg, Magnussen, Stroll, Piastri, Alonso, Sargent, Tsunoda and Albon also out on track as we watch Lewis Hamilton start his first flying lap of Q2, second fastest in Q1. Looks like the battle for pole position is between him and Max Verstappen at this moment in time, if I had to make my guesses. But anything can seemingly happen in 2024. Cars fluctuate in terms of performance. an insane speed. Lewis Hamilton, though, a tenth and a half quicker than Carlos Sainz through the first sector alone. Is it raining? No, not as of yet. Lando Norris pole. God bless Potter. Oh, good luck, Buzz. Verstappen goes quickest in the first sector, but Verstappen on that fresh set of softs. So this will be the real difference here then. Because Mercedes, Hamilton, and Red Bull's Verstappen were equal to one another in Q1. So we'll see the difference here in terms of used versus fresh tyres. Hamilton does go 5/10 quicker than Carlos Sainz's time. Goes top of the timing sheets at this moment, but Max Verstappen is absolutely rattling around and it's coming around the final corner and will take provisional poles just by how much? 0.8 of a second. Max Verstappen takes that provisional pole place. Of course, we're still just looking for that bottom 5 here in Q2. We've got Sergio Perez, George Russell, Zhou Guanyu, Esteban Ocon, and Pierre Gasly, who are not taking part. We're looking for who is going to start 11th through to 15th tomorrow here in Hungary. Oscar Piastri has just gone quickest of anybody through the middle sector. Looking at Max Verstappen's lap time. Where can Piastri slot himself in? Second fastest by 15 thousandths of a second. Just shy of Max Verstappen's time. Lance Stroll's also put in a lap time that is worthy of third place until his teammate comes across the line, snatches that from him. The Aston Martin's now third and fourth in the standings. Logan Sargent comes across the lines quicker than Nico Hülkenberg, but not quicker than anybody else. Sergio Perez has finally made his way back to the pit lane. There is his race engineer. Oh, no, sorry, that's his coach, isn't it? With him. Hülkenberg then into the bottom 5. Albon, Leclerc, Norris, and Ricciardo yet to set a lap time. Albon does set a lap time, only 11th quickest, so remains in that bottom 5. Imagine Norris is going to get out of there. He does indeed. Goes 4th fastest, puts Logan Sargent into the bottom 5 provisionally. Charles Leclerc and Daniel Ricciardo to come across the line. That could put Bottas and Sainz into the bottom 5, depending on these lap times. Here comes Charles Leclerc then. And it's 5th fastest for Charles Leclerc. That puts Valtteri Bottas into the bottom 5, and we're not going to see a lap yet from Daniel Ricciardo. So it is Bottas, Sargent, Albon, Hülkenberg, and Ricciardo, the drivers that need to improve as we cross the halfway point of this qualifying 2 session. Carlos Sainz looking to improve in his Ferrari, has put a fresh set of boots on and is now fastest in the first sector. Oh, a little bit off in the middle sector for Carlos Sainz. He's going to be right up there within touching distance of the top 2, you would imagine, though. See if he comes across the line around the final corner. Carlos Sainz, 3rd fastest. Yeah, thought he was going to be within touching distance. He's a 10th off Oscar Piastri. And just over a 10th off Max Verstappen is the Spaniard. Bottas, Sargent, Albon, Hülkenberg, and Ricciardo, the 5 drivers that need to improve. Daniel Ricciardo yet to set a lap time here in Q2 after going fastest of anybody through Q1. As it stands, the 10 drivers we'll see in Q3, Max Verstappen, Oscar Piastri, Carlos Sainz, Fernando Alonso, Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc, Lance Stroll, Lewis Hamilton, Kevin Magnussen, and Yuki Tsunoda just sneaking through to start in the point scoring places. But still 6 minutes to go here in Hungary, and we saw 6 minutes is more than enough to change things when it comes to qualifying after that red flag from Sergio Perez. Little reminder of what happened in Q1. Sergio Perez caused the red flag with 6 minutes and 45 seconds to go in the session, losing his car at turn 8, putting his Red Bull into the barriers And dropping out of the session, George Russell then also dropped out behind Sergio Perez's time. Couldn't improve, made a little error, and held his hands up, was out of qualifying, even with those 6 minutes to improve. Zhou Guanyu, Ocon, and Gasly also fell short and will drop out and start in the bottom 5 tomorrow. At this point, it's all the teams against Verstappen. Effectively, yeah. Max Verstappen is the one true kind of person who is always up there in that kind of top 4-5 position, isn't he? And then kind of flits between Norris or Hamilton or Piastri or Leclerc even sometimes as to who's battling with Verstappen for that weekend. Just feels like everyone has their run at Max Verstappen. And sometimes they get him, sometimes they don't. Max Verstappen is the one that is always at the top of the timing sheet. Daniel Ricciardo set a lap time very late, qualified into Q3. Fresh tyres. That might be the plan, yeah. Just deciding not to get that banker lap in and instead go for just one run out right at the end of it. So holding on to some tyres. I think that's actually a little bit of confidence from Daniel Ricciardo. Holding on to some tyres. The problem was he also used a set when Sergio Perez crashed because he was on an outlap on a set of tyres then. So Daniel Ricciardo kind of lost out on a set of tyres during Q1. And now is held on to a set of tyres during Q2. So maybe some confidence from the Australian that actually he's going to need those tyres because he's going to be in Q3. But we'll have to wait and see. Projected knockout time is a 1:16.3. Plus or minus 0.2 of a second. But as I said, so close in Formula 1 at this moment in time that those 0.2 of a second could be 5 cars within that for all we know. What is a banker lap? So you go out, you set yourself a lap time, you do it on kind of a used set of tyres, and basically it just means that you've got a lap time on the board. So if there is rain, or if there is a red flag at the wrong time, or a yellow flag at the wrong time, you at least have a lap on the board, and therefore you will technically qualify for the next session. Daniel Ricciardo, you'll notice, is 15th right now because he's the only driver not to have set a lap time. So if there was a red flag before he's able to set a lap time, or someone crashes and causes a yellow flag, or he messes up that lap, he hasn't given himself... Oh, Charles Leclerc very close to the wall in the garage. He hasn't given himself that leeway, hasn't given himself that lap where it's like, okay, I've just got that on the board, and therefore I can at least be safe in case something out of my hands happens, you know what I mean? Whereas he cannot be safe at this point. There's no way of Daniel Ricciardo qualifying for Q3 until he puts in a lap time. Whereas if there was a red flag right now, Max Verstappen, Oscar Piastri, they'd be like, don't matter. Risky strat from Daniel Ricciardo here. Risky. Sometimes you've got to risk it for the best things to happen. 2 minutes to go here then in Hungary for Q2. Still the big pole position showdown to come, but who will be the 10 drivers that get the chance to fight for it at this moment in time? Bottas, Sargent, Albon, Hülkenberg, and Ricciardo, the 5 drivers that need to improve, or they'll join Sergio Perez, George Russell, Zhou Guanyu, Esteban Ocon, and Pierre Gasly out of qualifying. Get your predictions in now. Predicting Alex for Q3. Love that. Logan's had 2 years to settle in this car. Scored 1 point in that time. Albon in the same car, over 30 points. Albon very much outdoing Logan Sargent, although slower than Sargent right now by 100th of a second. Could say. Here we go then. Thank you, Luke, for subscribing to the channel. If you aren't subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Whilst you're here, might as well hit the like button as well. We managed to get nearly 400 likes on the Silverstone stream for qualifying a couple of weeks ago. So can you get 400 likes on this stream? That would be absolutely sublime if you could do so. And here we go then. Let's settle in as the guys are going to start their flying laps. Alex Albon going to get us underway. Is he going to get into the top 10 for now? Yes. Albon goes 9th fastest. Logan Sargent also gets his Williams into the top 10 for now. Goes 10th fastest overall. Max Verstappen's just starting his first flying lap behind him. Valtteri Bottas also starting his flying lap. Daniel Ricciardo, there you go. 6th fastest from the RB. Gets himself out of that bottom 5. Charles Leclerc also improves up into 4th place. Lando Norris is going quick through the middle sector. Does need to improve. He's only 8th fastest right now. Is Lando Norris. Here's Fernando Alonso in the Aston Martin. What can he do? Stays 6th fastest and gets the checkered flag. So that is going to be all from Fernando Alonso. Lando Norris goes quickest of anybody overall. It was a very quick middle sector and equally quick through the final sector as well. Purples in both for Lando Norris and purple overall. Here comes Yuki Tsunoda then. His teammate Daniel Ricciardo, 8th fastest. Where can the Japanese driver put his RB? Goes quicker than his teammate. It's 8th fastest for Yuki. That puts Daniel Ricciardo in 9th and puts Lewis Hamilton in 10th place. Hamilton's come into the pits as well. So Hamilton, we could see back-to-back Mercedes going out in qualifying 1 and qualifying 2. Valtteri Bottas is looking to improve. Can he go quicker than 10th? No. Bottas 11th fastest overall. The Hasses are coming around. Hulkenberg only 11th fastest. Kevin Magnussen, and it's not good enough. By the skin of his teeth, Lewis Hamilton makes it through. It was Nico Hulkenberg in 11th place, Valtteri Bottas 12th, the Williamses of Albon and Sargent in 13th and 14th, and Kevin Magnussen 15th overall. 100th of a second is the difference between Lewis Hamilton and Nico Hulkenberg. My goodness me, the Mercedes man can count his lucky stars. Obviously, his 9th win in Silverstone last time out. He would have not wanted that positivity to be dampened by an early exit in qualifying. And he's just about done it. What was the problem with Lewis Hamilton then? Made a little mistake, possibly? Oh, did. Just through turn 5, actually. Through turn 5, gets all over the curbs, loses the rear end of the Mercedes, and that is why Lewis Hamilton didn't bother completing that lap and got very lucky indeed. And that is why you do a banker lap. Here we are then. Lando Norris, Max Verstappen, Oscar Piastri, our top 3 in Q2. They'll be joined by Carlos Sainz, Charles Leclerc, Lance Stroll, Fernando Alonso, Yuki Tsunoda, and Daniel Ricciardo, both of the RBs, managing to make their way through, as well as Lewis Hamilton, to battle it out for the top 10 positions. The point scoring places for tomorrow's Grand Prix. Close, isn't it? Very close indeed. Hulkenberg, 100th of a second slower than Lewis Hamilton. Valtteri Bottas, 12th. Albon, 13th. Sargent, 14th. Kevin Magnussen, 15th. And they join Sergio Perez, who's in 16th place tomorrow. Caused that red flag. Wasn't good enough from Sergio. And, well, we'll see what repairs have to be done to that Red Bull and whether or not he will actually start from 16th place or whether it will be another pit lane start for the Mexican. George Russell, 17th fastest this afternoon. 18th fastest was Zhou Guanyu. Esteban Ocon, 19th. And 20th place, Pierre Gasly, starting at the back of the pack. Nico Hulkenberg does seem to be very magnetic to P11. I think he's finished P11 in sort of 5 of the last sort of 8 races or something like that. It's a statistic that I completely plucked out of my mind, but it sounds about right, doesn't it? RB's trying to take that Red Bull seat. I mean, both Tsunoda and Ricciardo doing what Sergio Perez just can't seem to do at the moment. Making it through into Q3. Sergio Perez just been really struggling for qualifying pace consistently over the last 7, 8 Grand Prix. Like, you could argue Miami was good enough. Miami was still not great, though, from Sergio Perez. You know, you're looking at the first 5 races of the season for Sergio Perez being where he should be. Since then, I'd argue he's been quite a bit off the pace. Pierre still has that 50 place grid penalty. No. That is That is a one weekend thing that he had last weekend. Thank you for subscribing to the channel, Anto Ben. Aston Martin isn't that quick. Both the Aston Martins through to Q3 up in there. You're looking at, both the Aston Martins quicker than the Mercedes this weekend. Being a Mercedes-powered team at this moment in time. Oh, Valtteri Bottas. Just says, yeah. That's all he had on the radio was Valtteri Bottas. 12 fastest was the best he could do. Logan Sargent complaining about the traffic. He would have got Logan Sargent just not able to improve enough. Both of the Williamses out in Q2. We're going to get underway in a couple of minutes' time for the top 10 shootout. Daniel Ricciardo for the second Red Bull seat for the rest of the season. For assessment. Definitely happen. Can Piastri go on to pole? Most certainly. I think it's very, very competitive right now. You look at Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen were in the mix for provisional pole. Daniel Ricciardo was the fastest man in Q1. And Q2, it's Norris, Verstappen, Piastri, our top three this time. So any of those drivers right in the mix for it. Hulkenberg in a good car would be able to do wonders. Maybe even a first win. Let's get a first podium first, shall we? Podium first, wins later. I think would be the way that Nico Hulkenberg would kind of look at it. Although, to be fair, Nico Hulkenberg, if you offered him, your first podium is also going to be your first win. I think he'd take it. I think he'd say yes. Laurent Mekies, the RB team principal, telling us there's a possibility of a light shower coming. That could very much put a spanner in the works, couldn't it? If that light shower comes, it's not going to be helpful. Q3 is starting, well, right about now. Just waiting for the green light to show. Drivers are in the cars, set and ready to go. Tires are on. And now we wait. Ferrari fans in good spirits. Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc, to be fair, 4th and 5th fastest in that. Hopefully can improve. Thank you for subscribing. It's Carlos. Appreciate that, mate. United Edits, I subscribe. Thank you. Imagine Stroll P1. No. It's not that wet. Here we go then. Max Verstappen. It's only been on pole in one of the last 5 races. It was a really, really good qualifying position in Austria. Of course, he has been second a couple of times, 4th in there as well. Max Verstappen always in the mix for pole position, even when he doesn't nab it. And let's get underway. 12 minutes to go. Tyres on the cars. And the Red Bull of Max Verstappen is going to be the first out of the pit lane. I think with Oscar Piastri of McLaren behind. Ferraris there as well. Nobody wanting to leave it too late, especially as Laurent Mekies just told us there is a possibility of a rain on the way here in Hungary. And therefore, the drivers wanting to get that lap in as quickly as possible, just in case. Verstappen on the radio. And Max Verstappen doesn't want to get that toe, make that lack of a toe count, Max GP says. We are then Yuki Tsunoda ahead of Lando Norris in the pit lane. Is Verstappen, who's going to set the first time of the session. Piastri behind. Carlos Sainz will be 3rd across the line. Hamilton 4th. Leclerc 5th. Alonso then 6th man across the line. Tsunoda will be 7th across the line. Norris 8th. Lance Stroll and Daniel Ricciardo still in the pit lane and not actually looking like they're going to budge yet. Laurent Mekies does give the nod to Daniel Ricciardo. He comes out just behind Norris. And then Lance Stroll is going to be the last man across the line. Second run could be affected by rain, is what Fernando Alonso is being told over the radio. So best make these first runs count. Here is Max Verstappen's first run down in towards turn 1 in his Red Bull. Carries the speed, little bit of understeer through that turn 1. Turn 2 and turn 3, still trying to warm up with those tyres. It's still slippery out on track. Don't want to get yourself off that racing line. Going through turn 4, you literally just have to throw the car into turn 4 and trust that the car will stick to the track. That's the first sector completed. Then it's 6, 7 in that chicane. Down towards turn 8, where Sergio Perez, of course, put himself in the barrier. Through 9 as well goes Max Verstappen. Little run through the middle sector. Little lift through as he comes down towards the second sector finish line. The third sector is the only thing left to attack. Turn 13, long run around. Easy to lose time through the final couple of corners here in Hungary. Get yourself right and then left to turn 14. Max Verstappen around. And he's going to set the provisional pole time as a 1:15.5. There it is from Max Verstappen. Can anybody else get close? Oscar Piastri, a 1:15.8, 3/10 off of Max Verstappen's time at this moment. Here comes Carlos Sainz across the line. Also won't get close. A 16.2 from Carlos Sainz. Nearly 7/10 off Max Verstappen. Still nobody setting purple sectors. Max Verstappen setting the standard. Hamilton goes third fastest overall. Still 3.5 off of it. Charles Leclerc gets a little bit out of shape through turn 14, but gets across the start-finish line and still goes third fastest overall. Still, though, 3/10 off Max Verstappen's time. Oscar Piastri still the closest. Aston Martin of Fernando Alonso comes across the start-finish line. It's 5th fastest for the Spaniard, displacing the other Spaniard on the grid of Carlos Sainz. Lando Norris, then, is the fastest man through the middle sector. Yuki Tsunoda's going to come across the line first, of course, in the RB. It's only 7th fastest for Yuki at this point, though. Lando Norris, though, is the man to keep an eye on. Round turn 13 and 14. Across the start-finish line and goes fastest. Lando Norris, 3.5 quicker than Max Verstappen. Take a bow, Lando Norris. That was a stunningly quick final sector from the McLaren car. Daniel Ricciardo comes across the line. Not quick enough to displace his teammate. Goes 9th. And Lance Stroll is going to be the last man across the start-finish line. Let's see where he lines up in comparison to the RBs. Can he get close to his teammate Fernando Alonso, who's currently in 6th? Round the final corner comes Lance Stroll across the start-finish line. And it's 8th fastest for Lance Stroll, ahead of the 2 RBs. Max Verstappen already on the radio. There's a light drizzle as he's made his way back into the Red Bull garage. And the lap times could be it. Everybody wanting to get out there probably as quickly as possible, to be honest. Usually we see the cars here have a little moment in the garage, get set up, readjust. I think everybody wants to get back out on track as quickly as possible. Oh, and Oscar Piastri did have a little wobble there. Down towards, I think that's turn 12. Where Oscar Piastri had a little bit of a wobble through turn 11. So it can definitely improve. Lando Norris making his way into the pits. His helmet inspired by the trophy that he destroyed last year. Why does Hungary remind you of Monaco? Hungary did used to be called the Monaco without walls. I feel like it has less of that kind of feeling now. Less of a parade in Monaco. Less of a parade in Hungary now. Whereas Monaco still very much so. Here come the cars once again then. Piastri out on track first. Hamilton and Sainz will follow. And this is what I mean. The cars want to get out as quickly as possible. We usually see a little bit of an ebb in terms of qualifying here. But no, cars out on track as quickly as they possibly can be. Piastri already coming around turn 3. Hamilton, Sainz out on track. Here comes Max Verstappen then. Second fastest so far. And the current championship leader wanting to improve. Lando Norris is into the garage. The McLaren team trying to get those tyres on and off as quickly as humanly possible. The rain expected. Looking at the crowd, nobody's putting their umbrellas up yet. Fernando Alonso coming out. Still a lot of time left in the session. Nearly 5 minutes of Q3. But everybody expecting the rain to come and getting out there as quickly as they possibly can. Fernando Alonso joins them out on track. So does Yuki Tsunoda. So we now have 6 cars out on track. It's going to be Oscar Piastri to try and improve first and foremost as we head into the final runs of Q3. If you are new here, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Trying to get to 300 likes on this. We managed 380 for Silverstone. So if you want to try and make this one even more likes than the Silverstone qualifying, hit that like button now. And Oscar Piastri is going to get us back underway with the fast laps. Keep an eye on Oscar Piastri's lap times as he comes through. If it's anything to go by with Lando Norris, we're expecting Piastri to be quicker through the final couple of sectors. Maybe just that little bit slower through the first sector. Very light rain in the pit lane. Aston Martin and Fernando Alonso have let us know. Piastri makes his way past Ricciardo. Norris out on track. Sainz out on track. And Oscar Piastri, 5/100ths of a second, quicker through the first sector, is the fastest through the first sector of anybody from Oscar. Although Carlos Sainz has then come and gone even quicker through that first sector in the Ferrari. It does feel like the lap times are going to tumble. Oscar Piastri improves through the middle sector, but is still slower than his teammate. Max Verstappen has just gone quickest of anybody through the first sector. And it looks like this is going to be very tight indeed. Oscar Piastri then, can he improve? Goes around the final couple of corners across the start-finish line. It's not quite good enough for pole position. It's 200ths of a second off his teammate. And they are the margins that we're playing with right now. Carlos Sainz, though, also improving in the first and second sectors in his Ferrari. Can he go faster than Lando Norris? No, only 4th fastest for Carlos Sainz. Max Verstappen was quickest of anybody through the first sector, improved through the middle sector as well. And the Dutchman comes around the final corner. Can he snatch provisional pole? No. 3rd fastest and stays behind both of the McLaren cars. Oh, and there's Yuki Tsunoda. It's another Red Bull-powered car in the wall. And Yuki Tsunoda has caused a red flag, and that's going to be it, ladies and gentlemen. Norris is going to start tomorrow on pole position. Piastri, Verstappen, Sainz, Hamilton, Leclerc are top 6. Then Alonso and Stroll, Tsunoda and Ricciardo. What happened there? With... oh, dear, dear, dear. Yuki Tsunoda binned it in the wall, and that is a heavy shunt as well. That's 2 Red Bull cars that they've got to put back together again. Sergio Perez's car's only just made it all the way back to the pits. And now Yuki Tsunoda's car's going to have the same fate. It's going to have to be lifted up and over to the pit lane before the start of the race tomorrow. Let's see the onboard then. Comes up towards turn 4, that blind uphill section. Seems fine through there. Gets to turn 5. Oh, just gets on the pace. Oh! It's a big shunt from Yuki Tsunoda. Gets air, I think. I think the entire car was lifted off the track as he went over the curbs on the outside of turn 5. Just went really wide on turn 5. Couldn't slow the car down enough. Tried to lean in, obviously trying to improve. Get those margins for the final lap time in Q3. Onto the track, obviously still wet, still dirty out there. And the tyres just did not give him the grip that he required. And that is going to be it for Yuki Tsunoda. in terms of qualifying, and possibly it for everybody. 2 minutes and 13 seconds on the clock is technically enough to get round if you're maybe the first driver out in the pits, but I'm not sure anybody will go for it. Have to wait and see. It just drifted wide. I think actually got onto the kind of, there's like a little bit of AstroTurf, I think it is, on the outside of the exit of turn 5. Maybe even just grass. As soon as Yuki Tsunoda got onto that, obviously so slippery. And then you can see the car slide to the left-hand side. Then it bounces over one of the curbs. I think all 4 tires leave the tarmac. So he's up in the air. And Yuki Tsunoda then out of this qualifying session. It looks like cars are going to try once more. Lando Norris still in the car. Max Verstappen still in the car. Tires going onto the Red Bull. One more lap might be the case for us here. And Yuki Tsunoda has set up a one-lap quali. Lando Norris on the radio. Out into the pit lane. So Lando Norris is going to try and go for it then. And Lewis Hamilton following out. This could get very messy indeed with only 2 minutes left to go. Let's have a look at it again. He gets onto the right. Through turn 4, over to the left. Seemed fine. And yeah, literally seemed fine till he ran the tiniest little bit wide. Got that left front tire onto the grass or AstroTurf, whatever it is outside of turn 5 there. And then it was just all went wrong very, very quickly for Tsunoda. Not really much he could do about it. Just the car completely stepped over to the left, bumped up on the curbs. And then he's into the grass, into the gravel. Ugh. Smashes the rear end of the RB on the advertising hoardings, and Tsunoda, frustrated, holds his head in disappointment with himself outside of the car. And Yuki Tsunoda, second Red Bull car to find the barriers here. Sergio Perez the same, but in Q1. Red flag is still there. Max Verstappen getting out of the car. Verstappen up and out of the car then. Oh, was that a replay of Lando Norris coming towards it? No, Lando Norris is at the end of the pit lane. Maybe that was a replay. I think Lando Norris wanting to obviously confirm his pole. We've also got the Mercedes of Hamilton in the queue. Piastri's then third in the queue to get underway when we get a green flag. They are going to restart the session. There you go. We are going to get to see some cars out on track. And Piastri just being told there are going to be cars behind that are going to try and overtake you. But we want to get there. They're trying to protect that Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri front row at McLaren. They've done well to get out there first and has set the precedent. And Max Verstappen giving up on it. And I feel like, yeah, to be fair, there's a queue of cars now that's just way too long. With 2 minutes left to go, there's no way that we're going to get 7 cars all the way around. Max Verstappen out of the car in the Red Bull and just deciding what's going to happen and having a little look around the paddock by the looks of things. Where is Yuki Tsunoda's car? Looks like they have been able to remove it from the track. The crane has done its job. Just giving the track a little bit of a sweep from the debris. And we will be back underway. Oh, Lando Norris. Oh, yeah. Rain expected in 5 minutes' time. Is what Lando Norris has told over the radio. I mean, that would consolidate the pole position if not only the red flag, but then if it absolutely teamed down with rain, nobody is going to be able to improve on Lando Norris's time. I think it's going to take a little while, though, because the barriers have to be put back together by the looks of things. Yuki Tsunoda's car might be out of the way, but the barriers took a heavy shunt there. McLaren doing the right thing, in my opinion, as well. Just getting themselves out first in the queue. They're probably not going to improve on their lap times, but what they can do is just make it awkward for everybody else. Max Verstappen not wanting to be part of that. Already out of the car, wandering around the Red Bull garage and accepting that it's going to be a second row start at best. Mick Schumacher with the Mercedes team this weekend as well. So Lewis going to drop a masterclass now. Don't know if he'll even get the opportunity to be honest with you. Norris and Piastri have anything to do about it. Ooh. Okay. Piastri just being told to do the dark arts, but not dark enough to get properly told off. So basically, they want Oscar Piastri to, hold everyone back, try and slow everyone down, make sure that nobody actually gets a proper clean lap and a clean run at a fast lap. But don't do that too much because then you will get a penalty. So they're very much running the line here with Oscar Piastri. Just like, right. It was a bit like, Kevin Magnussen at the beginning of the season where it's like, right, doesn't matter. We've got what we want. Just hold on to it. Oscar Piastri, do that. Make sure Lando is still on pole. That is the priority. But don't get yourself a penalty. Otherwise, that would be awkward, Otherwise, that front row lockout, Oscar Piastri suddenly then down in 7th. Not looking so good, is it? Lewis Hamilton's actually taken his gloves off. Oh, there you go. 3 minutes and we'll get back underway. So we will resume at 17:21. 17:21. 2 minutes to go, 13 seconds. Is anybody going to be able to do a lap time in that time? There's Yuki Tsunoda just making his way into the pit lane in the medical car. So he is back. Seems okay, is Yuki Tsunoda. Another red flag here in Hungary. I said this before we started. I mean, it hasn't been the corner that I said. I thought turn 4 was going to be a real minefield for people today. And I was like, we might see a red flag at turn 4. We've seen 2 red flags. Neither of them at turn 4. One at turn 5, one at turn 8. Both for Red Bull powered cars. Sergio Perez in Q1 causing a red flag with 6.5 minutes left to go. Sergio Perez dropping out P16. Yuki Tsunoda then causing the second red flag of the weekend so far. And Hamilton now putting his gloves back on. Oh, no, just the right glove for Lewis Hamilton. Yeah, I'm expecting this to be a bit of a chaos lap for the majority of these drivers. Alonso not taking part anymore. Tsunoda obviously not either. Max Verstappen deciding against the chaos and just saying, you know what, I'll start from where I start. Track has actually warmed up a little bit. Obviously, this has given another few laps for the track to dry out completely from the rain that has kind of spitted and spattered through the sessions so far this afternoon. It's Cars actually getting underway. It does make you wonder because cars have been sitting there in the pit lane for so long. So long. Surely those tyres are absolutely stone cold by now. It does feel like this run might be just for the sake of it, to be honest, as opposed for it being for any kind of glory. Could be a very interesting couple of minutes of Formula One that we get to see. But there is the green flag. Lando Norris trying to find first gear and gets underway. I think just, wasting 10 seconds there. Wasting 10 seconds here. Lewis Hamilton wanting to obviously let Lando Norris have a gap in front of him. Lando Norris might just slow up and stop the Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton. Kind of being able to have that gap. This is going to be the weirdest. We've still got Oscar Piastri. I mean, it's a 1:20 lap time at best, like what Lando Norris's best lap time is a 1:15. So the cars that are coming out of the pits now, they've got absolutely no chance of getting around. Like the two Ferraris are not going to set a lap time here. It's just not going to happen. Lando Norris, though, has decided to disappear up 4th, 5th, 6th corner now for Lando Norris. Hamilton wanting to have one run at it. 366 likes. That is obscene. Thank you guys so much. As I said, I think the most like stream so far this season for qualifying is like 420. I think that was Spain. Someone might have to check for me. If we can get anywhere near 400, that is absolutely ridiculous. That would easily be the second highest liked stream so far this season. Also, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. We're going to be live again tomorrow for the Grand Prix and next weekend, of course, for the Belgian Grand Prix weekend. But here comes Lando Norris. He's going to cross the line with just under 30 seconds left to go. And he is actually going to get a lap in. Here we go then. Lando Norris already on pole. And now gets to see if he can improve just for fun. Lewis Hamilton is across the start-finish line. Will get to set a fast lap. Oscar Piastri is just coming around turn 14. It's going to be blooming close. Gets across the line, I think, with 8 seconds to go. Ricciardo across the line. Stroll just. Charles Leclerc across. And Carlos Sainz, there he was, just gave up and went into the pits. Lando Norris, 4.5 tenths off of his own first sector time. Not looking ridiculously quick right now. Lewis Hamilton, though, is the man that I'd really keep an eye on, to be honest. The first sector, very, very slow for Lando Norris. And you'd imagine he'll probably just back out of that lap, to be honest with you. Too slow. Daniel Ricciardo, though, with the personal best first sector. He is at the front of that queue of Stroll and Leclerc. Does feel like those guys are going to really struggle to improve, but Daniel Ricciardo finding a way to do so. Ricciardo could jump up in the order, currently 10th in qualifying. Lando Norris does duck out of this lap and decides not even to finish it and just comes straight into the pits. An underwhelming run for Norris. Hamilton across the start-finish line doesn't improve. So 5th fastest for him. Oscar Piastri also comes into the pits. It does feel like the McLarens only really came out just so that they could have a run at it. Daniel Ricciardo does improve on his teammate. So Daniel Ricciardo, it was worth it. Was it worth it? Lance Stroll and Charles Leclerc come into the pits. So Daniel Ricciardo sets a lap time in the final 2 minutes of qualifying. That moves him up into 9th spot. And we can finally run down our full 20 cars. Lando Norris will start on pole position for the second time this season. Didn't go well for him in Spain. Hopefully better this time around. Oscar Piastri will start second beside him. A front row lockout for the McLaren team with Max Verstappen, the current championship leader, in 3rd spot, with Carlos Sainz beside him in 4th. Of course, Carlos Sainz still without a contract for next season. Lewis Hamilton will start in 5th place, the man who is replacing Sainz at Ferrari, with his teammate of the future, Charles Leclerc, in 6th place beside him. Then the two Aston Martins, Fernando Alonso starts 7th, Lance Stroll will start in 8th place, Ricciardo 9th, and Yuki Tsunoda in 10th place. as long as they can put that RB car back together again. They will be the points scoring places, at least for the starters, tomorrow. Then we go into Hulkenberg, who's in 11th place, as he always seems to be at this point in his Formula One career. He'll start beside Valtteri Bottas in 12th. Alex Albon and Logan Sargent will start side by side for Williams in 13th and 14th, with Kevin Magnussen being the final man that made it through to Q2 but couldn't quite get to Q3. He'll start 15th place. Sergio Perez, after causing the red flag, will start in 16th, or possibly from the pit lane or wherever that ends up being if he does need to replace parts of his car. George Russell, 17th place tomorrow. 18th place for Zhou Guanyu. And then at the back of the pack, as it was towards the beginning of the season, Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly, the two Alpines, the rear gunners of it. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. It's been a very stop-start qualifying session here in Hungary, but the race tomorrow is on. I'm very much looking forward to it at the Hungaroring. If you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. If you've enjoyed this, hit that like button. We're edging towards 400 likes on this stream. We're also edging towards 100,000 subscribers on the channel as well. Trying to get up there. I think we're nearing 91,000. So if you can help us out, getting us towards 100,000, there could be a silver play button right here very soon. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you tomorrow.